Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you all for coming by. We have another great episode today of addressing military culture, and we're just going to be talking about some things. And it's the holiday times. A lot of times, soldiers are deployed away from their families during this course of time, and it's pretty hard to be away from your family and away in such many cases in other countries far away. And we're just talking about some of the feelings that soldiers are going through, some of the things that we can inspire to help them stay connected, how they're staying connected, steps to stay connected, and how to even just address being away at this point in time in the year. The holiday time is a very special time. I know Thanksgiving has passed by, but we're in Christmas time, and Christmas is like pretty much worldwide, a very, very special celebrated holiday, whereas it's celebrated worldwide. I know in certain countries, Canada, what have you, I think we celebrate Thanksgiving on different parts of the year, but Christmas is universally celebrated around the same time. And we have a lot of soldiers that are away from their families at this dire time, doing the job, serving the country, and putting, for the most part, their lives on the line so we can continue to have the freedoms that we walk around and we enjoy today. I got on this show today my most famous military veteran leadership. This is I call it my veteran leadership. I got my man Charlson Gaines, U.S. Air Force vet, and of course my man Jeff Clark joining us today. We're just talking about deployment during the holidays. Charles, I'll start with you, man. What does that really mean to you in your course of serving and being in this military community, man? What was that to you culture wise?
Well, I guess for me, man, when I think about being deployed during the holidays, it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Because what happens is you can feel really disconnected, right? You're away from your family, especially if you have kids, you miss your kids so much. But then at the same time, the people you're deployed with, sometimes you create a family there. So you love seeing your brothers and sisters. But for me, it's bittersweet because I know that when I was deployed, I know that my wife was taking care of everything without me, and she didn't have the same support that I did downrange. So it was bittersweet because of who I got to be with, but at the same time, man, it sucks when you can't see the ones you love. I mean, simple as that.
Yeah, Jeff, how did you deal with some of that being away, and what were some of the good things, if you could call it that? What were some of the good things that kind of carried you through that? That kind of like shouldered that burden of being deployed while it was the holiday time.
Oh, well, I think when being away from the family, during the holidays, whatever holiday it is, um, kind of like what Charles already said, it's you can kind of rely on your work family to help out, but leaning back and understanding how it is back at home when maybe there's nobody there. But I think it's really about you know embracing the moment and just being comfortable being uncomfortable. There's nothing you can really do to change the situation. You can't go back home, or you can't move the whole family back home. If you're across the country or whatever it may be, you kind of have to just embrace it. But on the other side of that, when we're talking about culture, you might be in a culture that you're not familiar with. Well, you need to go out and check out some of that culture and what all's going on, and new events, and to meet some strangers. And I think that's really important to have kind of that boldness and that bravery about you and go do it, and meet new people and learn new things.
Yeah, I think a lot of went on with me. I'm freezing up a little bit there. A lot of went things that went on, and I kind of gotten my take on just really being away from the family. Come out there, away from the family, and not being there for those holidays, not being able to be able to be involved with, or I don't know, my Wi-Fi is catching up there, but not being able to be involved with the family, doing things, uh, creating that family that you're there out in the swing of things, and then looking for those to be back home to kind of like keep that unity there without you being there. A lot of times I know it was depressing. It was putting the best face forward was always what we were not only just taught to do, but admonished to do, and pretty much was like fearful of doing anything else. We put on that face of like, yes, I know it is when I'm doing my due diligence, or even kind of justifying, that yeah, I know that I'm not with my family. I know that we're not celebrating, together, but I'm fighting for my country, and I'm doing what I signed up for, and the justification is definitely there. Is it fair to think about it? When you thought about it, you kind of don't know. I tell my nephew, he's a police officer, so I tell him all the time. I always tell him when I see him, I say, well, that's the job. So according to the job, when you signed up for the job, you're not always guaranteed. I mean, we praying for you. We praying you come back, after every shift, but you're not guaranteed a regular traffic stop could turn into that being your last days here on earth. So you have to think about those things, man, and going through it in the family genre that it's difficult. It's difficult, man. What were some of the stressors and things like, man? You guys tell me like some of the things like you guys are in it longer than I was. You done some long tenures. I got 6 years. I won't say 6 little years, but based upon what you guys served, man, you guys give me some examples of some things that kind of pushed you through, man. What got you through that, man?
Ooh. A big thing that helped me push through some of that stuff was being open to things, being open to having some fun. It's really, really easy to go back to your barracks room or back to your house or whatever like that and be upset and depressed and bummed about not being around people. It's real easy to do that. It's even harder to say, okay, I got to make the best of this situation. So it was having a core around me that were like, come on, let's go do this. Or, hey, let's have a big potluck here at work and everybody bring in a dish, or everybody do this. Or, hey, let's go sponsor a kid downtown and make their family Christmas a really big deal. It was just that togetherness and doing things together and not stiff arming it when the opportunity came up and embracing it and doing that. Those things got me through a lot of tough times, because Christmas, my daughter's very first Christmas, I completely missed it. And, I had a core group of people at work around me who were like, come over to our house. Let's do this together, blah, blah, blah. It's not a big deal. There'll be other Christmases. Like, they got me through that.
Yeah. All right, Charlson, man, what were some of the things that got you through, man? How did you stay connected? Like, connection is really a big thing. I know there's things that we've done, and there are certain things that we kind of like had ritualistically that helped us kind of fortify being away. But like, what were some of the things that you said, okay, I know this is what I got going on, and you guys have covered it in the essence of that. But just like, what are some of the steps that these ones that's deployed now? What can they do if you think that they already haven't tried? What was the ways that they can stay connected to family during this course in time? Because it's probably one of the most hardest parts or times of seasons of service that you really go through. I know it was hard for me, though it wasn't as many years. I did get to come home one year during the holiday. I was allowed to. It just so happened my leave fell like that I was able to be there. But I had the holiday and I had to ship right back out. I think I was only there for Christmas, and then the next day I was at Christmas and the day after, and then the next day I had to ship out. So I don't know if that was even better for me or actually worse for me, because I get to spend a couple of days, and then as soon as I got comfortable with seeing family and getting hugs, it was time to hit the door again. And I take it from the essence of, I didn't have family when I was separated. So a lot of my friends, just like moms, brothers, sisters, I didn't have children. I didn't have a spouse when I was in the military. So I didn't have that connection. I was kind of like the Rambo spirit. I was kind of like, it's just me. I don't have anybody yet. So, but you guys probably have families and those kind of things. I can't imagine how hard and difficult it was in those times, man, to kind of like bring that together and stay that connect and keep that connectivity.
When I think about staying connected, and so they're staying connected, right? Like making sure that we have communication back and forth. And then they're staying connected, which is a little bit deeper than that, right? The connection that comes with vulnerability and gratitude and honesty, right? And so when I think about that, I think about doing more for the family back home, right? And so a lot of times what happens, and because it was different 15, 20 years ago when you would get deployed and you had very little resources or whatever compared to now. Nowadays, you can make videos to send home. And there's different things you can do online, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you have those connections. And a lot of people will use that to try to keep things in check back home, right? So for example, you're deployed, you're in Afghanistan, and you're checking in to see if your spouse has paid the bills on time. Has your spouse done that? Are they accomplishing the checklist? Like, stop being the man of the house and send love, send affection, send smiles, send positivity and optimism. So even though you're apart, your relationship and connection can actually grow stronger because you have this attitude of giving and this attitude of serving with love instead of demanding, instead of being, woe is me, right? Just like Jeff was talking about with your perspective, like, oh, woe is me, it's so hard out here. This is what I need. No, you're in a position now with technology where you can send home the video message. I'm proud of you because you got straight A's. Thank you for helping out mom or dad with the cooking or the cleaning. Like, you can be supportive still. You can still provide that positivity and optimism. So the way to stay connected is your mindset is, am I going to continue to provide some kind of positivity, optimism, love, or am I going to be over here like bitching and crying about how bad I got it? The choice is yours.
Yeah, it does make it so much better, especially now, Jeff. I know with you there and you're training and you're doing the leadership and being uh, disconnected, so to speak. But Charles makes a great point. Now, more than ever, I think that we have such much more greater capability. And I know we talked about this on the last episode. We had so many more resources that's pretty much aligning with how we can get through things, if not greatly, much better than it was available to me back in my time. I got out in the early 90s. We wasn't, I mean, I can for sure we wasn't FaceTime nobody. We was standing in lines trying to drop a quarter on the payphone. So I know we wasn't doing, no picture videos or those things like that. But in the course of that, how has that even helped you now with still just dealing with not necessarily separation, but dealing with those that you talk to, that you inspire, mentor, those that are in those kind of difficult situations? How they kind of help you kind of like bend the curve for them and make it a little more better for them to be in the situation that they're in?
Well, I think a lot of it is about planning. I tell a lot of people, plan ahead. you know, you can very easily record videos and draft, social media posts and schedule all that ahead of time. You can do a lot of the legwork well ahead of time. So you don't miss crucial moments. Because sometimes it's not about being there. Sometimes it's about mentioning it. Like, just making sure you tell somebody happy birthday, or making sure that you're the first person to tell somebody Merry Christmas. Like, for example, my dad used to be horrible with this schedule, just horrible. I finally sat him down, got him one of those planner things for his desk, one booklet for his pocket, and then I taught him how to use his iPhone calendar. And now, as soon as he wakes up in the morning, he's telling me happy birthday or Merry Christmas or Happy Thanksgiving every year, like 4:30 in the morning. It drives me absolutely insane. But it's not the point of it. It's the fact that he remembers now. And that's really, like, I might not even see him for Thanksgiving, but he remembered to say something. He was the first person to say something. So there's a lot of things you can do with technology today to stay ahead of the curve, even no matter your distance. Like, my last boss was a major, and he got deployed to Afghanistan during the first 6 months of his child's life. Every single night, he was able to read him a bedtime story every single night because the internet works so well, even in middle of nowhere Afghanistan now. Mm-hmm. So, you have to embrace those technologies and talk to people around you and say, hey, how are you, talking to people at home? What app are you using? What are you doing here? What are you doing there? How did you send your wife flowers for her birthday? Just ask questions, because every single person is a source of resources. You just have to tap into that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and it's amazing that you can find that to be doing that. How do you? I'm looking at the impact, right, and the impact that it has on on families and dealing with that, and dealing, because I know a lot of us are, even though we go through the motions, and I talk about vulnerability all the time, and striving to be able to embrace that and what that actually means, and what it means for us as service people has been really really more a deeper way for me to connect, because I know how to separate. But a lot of times, I mean, most of the times when we're in the service and we're taught this unbreakableness, that we can't be separated because it's the mission. Like, our mindset has to stay focused because it's what we do. Uh, the impact of that on families is tremendous, man. How are you seeing that with families now going through? Because I know we talked about it on the stage of really with the soldier, right? And the availability and the resources and things of the soldier, but mentally, psychologically, with the family that's home. I've talked to a couple of military spouses, and one of them is a close friend of mine, and she's at home with three young ones, and like, yeah, she's toughening it up, and she's got the solid rock face, and I know she's going through, but I know from another point of being a soldier as well, how debilitating that can be for a family, even with resources, because all the time you're not comfortable. Yes, it is a community. The military is definitely a community, but it's a community too that's kind of like any other community. At points in times, it's interactive and helpful and preventive, and then at points in time, it's kind of like aggravating, annoying. So like, how do you figure that? How does that play on the impact, man? Or even these spouses that's left behind, whether it be male or female or partner.
Well,
Charlson, what you think about that?
um, go ahead, Charles.
Oh, all right. When I think about it, I think about two things that I think about are really um, social support, and then how they perceive themselves. And what I mean by social support is like you were talking about with the community, right? And so
Mhm.
for some, it's needing help with grocery shopping and cooking and things like that, and with others, it's just staying connected, just knowing that somebody cares, right? And so a lot of people have this perspective of marriage where your spouse has to be like everything to you, right? My support, my encouragement, my lover, my best friend, all these things. Well, if that's the case, then when your spouse deploys, then everything has deployed. And so what you need is you need more than that. You need the community. And then it's like, how do you see yourself? Because a lot of times you can feel like, again, woe was me, my spouse is gone, I have to do all the stuff myself, I'm just like a single parent, blah blah blah. But in reality, and I know it's difficult, I know it's hard, but in reality, you got to try to find some positivity in that. You got to look at some of these challenges as opportunities. And so you really have to have that mindset that I'm resilient, I can handle this. The separation is temporary, and I'm just going to do my best. So really, you have to just have this mindset that you can do it. Like, you're not failing, you're not lost, it's temporary. You have to find that strength, and it's a lot more difficult, I think, for spouses to find that strength, because they're not rolling out somewhere with 20 or 30 colleagues. Sometimes their colleagues are the couple little ones, so it can be a lot harder.
Yeah, I think it can be. What you got to add on that, Joe?
Something I learned was that, you know, when you're gone, you're used to kind of being gone, because you wake up every morning, you put the uniform on, and then you go to work. You don't take your family with you. You kind of go to a new family. You go to a work family. Your family at home, they just stay at home. you know so If they don't have the community like what Charles was talking about, they have no way to fill their day. And then if you have a spouse at home, him or her, or they're at home all day, with the little ones. That's all they see. Maybe they have a friend come over every now and then, something like that, but that's all they see. When you come home, when you get off, you're their break. So when you're gone, TY, deployed, whatever it is, you don't get to come home and give them that break. So their mental state doesn't do this as much, to where they can always kind of come down and get that mental break. It's just constantly going up, because all they're seeing is the same people in the same four walls 24/7 while you're gone. So something I learned and I was taught by some of my senior leadership at a younger age was, you have to have the understanding of that. You don't necessarily understand it, but you need to understand the situation they're in. All you did was leave work, and you went to go to work with your work family. It's just in a different location or wherever it may be. Yeah, you're not going home, but your scenery has not changed nearly as much as everybody at home has. Everybody at home has to deal with the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day every day while you're, and that's tough mentally. That's really tough mentally. And if you try to combat that, if you get on the phone and it's just two people complaining about not seeing each other and being away, what is that going to do? It's going to do absolutely nothing for anybody's mental state. So just having an understanding of what the other party is going through helps tremendously when it comes to getting through some things, because not every trip away is going to be perfect. A water line might break in your house and you're in Afghanistan. How are you going to fix that? You're not. Your spouse is going to have to do it, and maybe she's never had to deal with that before, and you're gone. So the person that they rely on is absent. So you have to remember, in a way, it's not about you.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, it is. It's not about you, and it's the aspect of how can we get through this? Looking at it from that perspective, and a lot of times I think that's really the breakdown, especially the mentally. And I like how you put that, where to come home to, because a lot of times even you can just flip the script on that. If we're there and the spouse is there and we're there, just say we aren't deployed there, we're on a duty station and we're just living on this duty station, and I'm going to work. And because a lot of times I think people have this, if they're not in the military, not familiar with the military, they have this mental state that it's just like, okay, you guys going to war, you're not going to war. But like there's a lot of occupations in the military. It's just like a 9-to-5 job. You go to work in the morning and you come home. You come home in the evening time. So everything is not about the war aspect or even in battle aspect of that. Because I remember in good times, I was at Fort Carson when we wasn't doing training. I would go and we work at the motor pool. We fixed the tanks and, make sure everything was greased, lubricated, guns and all that kind of stuff. And then at 5:00, everybody checked out. It was time to go, go back to the barracks. So you do have that job and that stability at certain points. But now with the world as it has gotten, with so unstable, at the drop of a hat, you could be pushed into those scenarios where that comfortability is gone, and that creates that insanity in those homes. And Charlson put a good point as saying that, we look at it as saying, okay, how am I dealing with this though? Because I know when I'm looking at, okay, that's my all, that's my spouse, that's my better half, that's they're going to do whatever they're going to do. How are we encouraging as military culture? How are we encouraging those that stuff behind? And what are some of the resources that you've seen that's been real effective in moving past these kind of ills, so to speak? Because they're going to happen. It's just it's just under the beast and what we're in. But how are some of the things that you've seen, or what are some of the things that you've seen has really been encouraging for those who's continually to go with these problems or don't know where to get the help from?
Well, I think one thing that's just encouraging is, and I've seen it over the last couple of years when I was a civilian employee working for the Air Force, was there's just a lot more stuff going on to support families. And a lot of it is like, so in the Air Force, you have, the Airmen and Family Readiness Center. I think in the Army, there's Army Community Services, where they're just trying to make spouses more aware of the resources available, because, you know, we're all human. And so you can have a list of 25 things available, but maybe the spouse doesn't want to ask. How many people are like that? They don't want to ask for help. They don't want to do those things. And so now there's things where, like, key spouses and Airmen and Family Readiness and MWR, they have their Facebook pages, and you can subscribe to get their emails, things like that, so that they don't have to ask. So these organizations are being more proactive in supporting spouses. And then unit leadership is more proactive in really just being aware of who's deployed, what kind of family do they have at home, who's connected to them while they're gone, those kinds of things. Because one thing that I was thinking about is when you're deployed, especially if your spouse doesn't really know what you're doing, right? Are you checking your email at a desk, or are you riding in a convoy getting shot at? What are you doing today? They don't really know, right, what you're doing today. And so if there's a leak and you've got water dripping from the second floor to the first floor, they don't want to tell you about that. You're the best friend, where maybe they can fix it on their own, but they want someone to vent to. They don't even want to vent to you because they immediately assume, well, you have it so much harder than I do. And I can tell you, for me, when I went to Iraq last time, so I had where I was sleeping. I had my barracks. Gym was a 10-minute walk. The exchange was a 10-minute walk. The chow hall was like a 10-minute walk, and my job was a 15-minute walk. That was such a simple life for me. My wife didn't have it that easy. And our kids at the time were 3 and 5. And I wasn't raising them because I was deployed. And so they need to know that, and you need to make yourself available, that you're still the best friend. And not for everyone, right? Like, if you're spending a lot of your days being shot at, maybe you don't want to hear about the toilet being broke. But I mean, come on, for the rest of us, there are 70-80% who aren't even leaving the installation, and they're not being shot at. Yeah, don't complain. Be available. Be open. Be honest.
Yeah, it is true, because this time of year, you can't stress enough. I remember one of my sergeants that I had when we was going to training. It was this time of the year, and of course I couldn't get away, man. And he said the holidays are like a coin. And I was like a coin. I'm like, this older sergeant, he had been around a while, and I guess he had started getting his philosophy thoughts, and he had just been kind of like spraying that throughout my service with him. And he just was saying things. And he told me one day that the holidays were like a coin, and he's like, it's happy times on one side and the stressful times on the other. And he said that's how it is when you look at a coin. Sometimes it's heads, sometimes it's tails. And he said a lot of things that, to cope and enjoy the holidays. He always encouraged me in the midst of whatever we were doing to kind of make sure that I took that time out for myself, that I got rested so I could kind of be free from stress. Told me to kind of like do some of the activities that'll recharge my batteries and reduce stress. Just like what you were saying, Charles. He used to tell me, go out, do more exercise. And he's like, find one of the buddies and you guys catch a movie or something. And when you start considering those things, and can start considering some of the fun things. He said that, even he's told us to even think about you sending a care package to your family, instead of, because, soldiers have always, they always put together these little plans to make care packages for soldiers. He said, why don't you reverse that? He said, why don't you go get a lot of items, those small items or whatever that you think would be impactful for your family, and make them a care basket. Send that to them from you, So he was always giving us ideas. And I guess for him, I think he's in 20 about that time. So I know he's well retired by now, but it's just those little things like that he told me that kind of kept me grounded in the midst of, you know what I mean? And like I said, I didn't have a family such as children and a spouse, But like a young man, I went to the military at 19. So that was like the first big time I was away from home, beside maybe going down to grandma's down south, on the farm for the summer. I mean, here I was 19 in Germany, in a whole nother country, a whole nother world. So yeah, I got lonely a lot of times. A lot of times I got in that bedroom in the barracks and coming from work, and I caught myself making sure nobody saw me crying, because it's like, you hear, man, I know you're not crying for your mom. I wasn't really crying for my mom. I was just really crying for the familiarity that I got accustomed to. And this wasn't familiar to me yet, even with everything that was going on. It just never became, the military never became familiar to me. And did you guys ever have some of those kind of feelings, Jeff, man, that like, it was never, even though the time I put in, I knew what I had to do. Itinerary is there, everything is known pretty much in the military, but like it never got familiar to me, like that's the kind of life I wanted. And did you ever come across those kind of feelings?
I say early in my career, yeah, I kind of, had that homesick feeling, it was more like the traditions. Like you had a family house, you had to start making some of your own new traditions. Um, so, and it was looking at my spouse and saying, well, my family always did this on Christmas Eve. And she'd say, well, my family always did this. And we'd say, well, what are we going to do? Because we both want to do it, because we're both a little homesick. And it's embracing the idea of doing new things and making your own, comfort zone and your own traditions, and giving and taking a little bit, and just being kind of open to that, because, whether you have a family or you're single like yourself and you're away, you can't do what you used to do anymore. You're not around the same people. So instead of sitting around thinking about, I bet my family is eating blah, blah, blah right now, like we do every single year, go out and find it, make it yourself, invite some people over, go do something new, and start a new tradition, because you don't think about it now. But later on in life, when you're telling these old military stories in settings like this, where we're talking, veteran to veteran, you have those unique stories that you can tell that creates a bond. Like, I don't know Charles, but I know me and him were in the Air Force. So we're going to have all kinds of things to talk about in common, because we were in the same culture, so, you have to look at kind of the other side of the coin and say, there's a lot of benefits and a lot of positives, but you have to find them. You can't have blinders on.
Yeah, you definitely can't have blindness on, Charlson. And when you think about uh, the total aspect of just being away, and being there, how dramatic, because that traumatic, should I say, how traumatic that can be, even after. I gotta kind of find it that it's usually probably take on more gravity once families become a part of it, because as you're a young adult person going into the military, yeah, you have those initials, but then you start gravitating to new friendships, and you start gravitating to a new community, and it's just you. And then there comes in stages, and I didn't experience the second wave, but I've talked to a lot of soldiers that have. They initially went in as a young person, with just left with friends back for whether it's high school or college, and now they started in career wise, and then now you meet a spouse or a significant other, and now you begin that family, you begin that stage, and that brings on a whole nother new set of things that you can kind of like get into way of, and avoiding some of those. I guess we can call them holiday blues, since you guys are both Air Force guys. Holiday blues, and you dress blues. You call them holiday blues, man. But it's something that really, that a lot of military people are going to, and even now with that transition, I know we talked about a lot of the transition from military to civilian now, but even trying to acclimate those transitions or those traditions back into your life once you've come back to, I was just say, when you get your foot on soil, when you come back to the civilian genre of this, and psychologically and emotionally, uh, where are you at this point, Charleston? When you thinking about that emotionalness of it, and I know you got all of these things, and you guys have covered a lot of these things, and you let us know that the mindset is the greatest of them. But what tools can we use from this point to say, okay, maybe I'm transitioning back. I'm still away from my family. I really don't know how to deal with this. I'm hearing all what you're saying. I was like, but the point of the matter is, man, I'm still separated from my family. And no matter how these different, you know, areas or arenas of things that you got for me to do, man, I'm still lonely. I'm still depressed. I'm still not fulfilled inside, man. How do you deal with that on the emotional level, man?
Well, for me, it really starts with the self-awareness. You have to begin there because a lot of times what happens is you may feel a certain way. You have to figure out why. So for example, you feel like when you're deployed, you could feel like, oh, I miss my family, I miss, my wife, my kids, I miss the community, so on and so on. And then you get home and you feel like you don't belong.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out why. Why do I feel this way? What expectations did I have that are not met? Or maybe were my expectations unrealistic? So why do I feel like I feel? And so when you understand why you feel a certain way, why you're experiencing a certain emotion, then you can do something about it. But if you're walking around sad and depressed and so on, and you don't know why, it's hard to do anything about it. And so, for example, for some people, I've talked to some people that they they had the kind of jobs where they literally were shooting at adversaries and getting shot at, right? Protecting their perimeter, those kinds of things. So there's a certain level of adrenaline that they just stay at. They have elevated adrenaline, elevated fight or flight, and it just stays that way. And it's hard to admit to some people because war is such a bad thing, but you like the adrenaline rush, just like people who go skydiving or white water rafting. And then you come home and you're lonely because you can't talk to your kids about that one time that the outpost was attacked, how you guys survived that. Or then maybe you lost someone and you can't talk to like your spouse about that because your spouse didn't know that person. And then on the flip side, maybe you had the kind of job like I did, when I deployed. I was an intelligence analyst, and so I spent all of my time inside the wire on a computer being productive that way. And so then when you come home and you kind of feel like you weren't fighting a war, and so you kind of feel insecure, like I'm actually not a war fighter. And so then people are like, "Oh, welcome home, glad you made it," and you feel like I don't even deserve what people are saying to me. And so you have to figure out why you feel what you feel so that you can do something about it.
Yeah, Jeff, that self awareness is king. I put a question in there, and how are we trying to with what Charlson said and talk about the self awareness, and I know that plays a focal part. But I always say I like to play the advocate. I'll never say that I'm the devil's advocate. I just like to be an advocate when I talk about the opposites of things. So I understand the dynamic of that and the struggle of that. But how can we really experience, like the question I asked, we can experience the most wonderful time of year without getting overwhelmed? Because even though we do that, and that is amazing, it's also what you say, because it's something that really it's not really highlighted. We spend all of this time away during the deployment from family, and all of that time we're yearning to be back with family. And then when we're back, to say whether it just be for the brief time of us coming back from deployment, or even maybe the total time of us transitioning out of the military for good, when we have these opportunities to get back with family, there's no connection. There's no bond because they haven't experienced, or even they couldn't have experienced what we experienced, but dare us to even tell them, or even try to bring some of those horrors, that because I mean a lot of some things that we went through, in the course of the military was just horror when you say that to a person that has no idea what you're going through. Right? I mean, because when I told my mom when I got back, some of the things we did in training, like she gave me a hug like somebody had killed me. I was like, yo, I'm good. I'm good. What you talking about? She was like, you didn't just realize all the stuff you just told me you just doing. You did put you in the gap. I remember most horrible thing I told her, I thought she was gonna start crying. And they put me in they put us in the chamber, and they threw gas tanks in there. We had to stand there for a certain amount of time without our mask on. It's part of the training. And I told her, I said, yeah, we had to stand there. We had to stay in there. We had no mask. And I say the drill sergeants was in there with their little stopwatches with the mask, with their mask on, trying to see if we could, how long we could take it. Can we survive? Those kind of things. She was like, that was just cruel. That was just cruel. But you can't, that disconnect. How do we get that overwhelming disconnect out and try to move forward? Like Charles was saying, that how do we work against moving towards that, or moving away from that, should I say, of that, I miss my family so much, man, and now I got my family all the time and I don't even know what to do with my family. I'm overwhelmed at the sight of just being able to see them and be with them now, because I don't know how to connect. How do we fix that connection?
Well, I think it kind of goes to the phrase of don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. Don't try to make something work that just isn't there. So you're going to have a hard time coming back and talking to your family about your experiences, because they're not going to understand to the level that you need them to understand to make you feel better. You might be looking in the wrong spot for that. If you're wanting that sense of fulfillment and understanding, that's not necessarily the place to get it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to them. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is understand that they're not connecting to you either, because you've been gone. So just as much as they're not understanding you, you're not understanding them. So again, it's just a clash. You're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So, talk about some things with the knowledge and understanding of, while you're in that reconnecting phase, not everything's going to be all good. Not, sometimes you're going to have to nod and smile. It's not going to necessarily be, the truth. I mean, I can't sit here and nod and say, yeah, I totally understand. I don't. So, have that understanding that during that reconnection phase, it might be a little rocky, but you have other resources. Go talk to other people. Be attentive and in the moment when someone's talking to you, because that might be all they need, is to just have that ear that can listen to them, be their sounding board so they can vent and get some of those things off their chest. That might be all they need. So be attentive and just have an understanding that reconnection is not like plugging in or and saying, boom, I'm connected to the internet.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to talk about your feelings when you're a soldier. I just really I came to that after being in there, and then of course talking and discussing things. There are things that we've discussed and that that has happened to us, that we, I don't know, for lack of a better word, try to keep them low, try to keep them so they don't invade some of our sanity, so to speak. Some things we've seen that we want anyone else to see. Some things we've even experienced that we wouldn't want anyone else to experience, and we definitely don't want to carry those kind of conversations with family members. But when you think about it, things are really getting better in the military to help soldiers. And I know that we've been talking a lot about some of the dynamics of how they even staying connected. But even though things are getting better, there's still a way to go. But I've always heard that it's important for soldiers to be tough. But I know that in the course of even just dealing with people and the vulnerabilities and how they can be, uh, it's tough. You could be tough, but still have weaknesses. There are things that you still deal with on that mental level that you've been through, even combat man. You've been through these kind of places, and your mind has been to these kind of places. There's still weaknesses. There's still chinks in the armor on the mental side that you still deal with and you still fight with. And do you guys still see that, Jeff? I'll start with you. Do you still see some of those things that you carried from that, or have you been kind of working through that? I wouldn't necessarily say the night sweats, waking up in the middle of the nights, those kind of things, but just some of those things that you were kind of touched by and kind of like changed and it kind of like galvanized the way that you see life now and the way that you're doing things now?
Yeah, I think it was really understanding what tough meant. And what resiliency really meant was learning that from someone who kind of mastered it, so to speak. I learned it from a veteran who was an Army Ranger and had done a lot of special missions over the years. And he said the biggest mistake I made when I came home was not talking, and to think that I was tough and that I could just keep it all inside. And I'm a tough guy. I got the Ranger tab. Like I don't need to talk. Like I'm good. And he said that was the biggest mistake of my life, was believing that that was what tough was. And he said what he taught me. He said what being tough is understanding when you're weak, seeking out the sources to help you through it, and becoming stronger on the other end. That's tough. Because once you get to that level, to where you're self-aware of what's going on, you are truly tough. Nothing is going to bring you down because you've already mastered how to handle yourself in tough times. And I think that was just knowing what tough was, what really was. That was huge for me.
Yeah, it really was. I'm gonna put something up here that I want you guys to comment on and tell me, what does that mean to you? I heard this. I stopped counting it. I stopped counting, to be actually. I heard this statement so many times in the course of my military career that I kind of like lost touch of even what the connotation was, or what it should have been saying to me, or what the implication was, and what I was supposed to get from it. Was supposed to be encouraging, or was supposed to have been a straightforward? When you see the term "embrace the suck," so also I'll start with you. What does "embrace the suck" carry as a connotation for you and your military career?
Well, for me, it's it's different now than it was 10, 15 years ago, right? So because before, embrace the suck kind of meant, when something sucked, there's nothing you could do about it. You just suck it up and take it. But in reality, back then that meant when you had toxic leadership, when you were being screwed over, when someone was doing something wrong. But that's not what it meant, because embrace the suck does not have to contradict integrity or accountability. So now when I think about embrace the suck, I mean, I think of it as, you do the best you can, but it's about your mindset, right? And so, for example, when we're talking about being away from your family during the holidays, no one's doing you wrong. It's not a toxic environment, you being away. It's just how it is right now. So what can I do to make it better? So embracing the suck means stop complaining, choose gratitude, have the discipline to do what you can, right? I can't do everything, but what can I do? Have the discipline to do it. So it's really about your mindset. And when we hear something like just be positive, half the time you hear that, you want to slap the person who said it, right? But it's still good advice, but those words suck. Right? So when you get over your initial reaction, it's like, okay, how can I be positive? Oh, I know. I can, even some of the things that Jeff said earlier, right? It sucks. I can embrace the suck of the deployment by pre-planning certain things, right? Pre-planning, when are we going to have these FaceTime calls? When am I going to send something for a birthday or whatever? So that's embracing the suck. You're deployed, you're not getting out of it, but while you're deployed, you can pre-plan, you can think of positive things, you can practice gratitude. For example, you can get on FaceTime or whatever it is, whatever's available while you're deployed or while you're on the other side of the country. And every day, let's talk about three good things that happened today. Something like that. And that whole process can take 5 minutes. And so it becomes a routine. So then embracing the suck is a routine for you, right? And that does not sound appealing to most people, but it can be a routine. It's part of how you stay resilient and move forward.
What do you think about that, Jeff? Because I know me and you have tickled and laughed about this about this statement, man. And it's also puts a good spin on it, which is actually absolutely true, man. It's not the same, but what do you? It's not the same connotation that it used to be. But
Yeah.
what does that kind of mean to you, man? In the essence of, I know you were told this numerous times. You probably stopped counting as well as I have. Uh, what does that connotation take on for you, man?
For me, it was kind of always, embrace the suck was always kind of a reminder what you signed up for. Yeah, we didn't sign up for toxic leadership and stuff like that, but you got to remember that every organization deals with stuff like that. So what you're doing is what 99% of the rest of the population of the country isn't willing to do. It's supposed to be fun, so embracing the suck almost became kind of like a motivational reminder that we raised the hand, we signed on the dotted line to do things that nobody else was willing to do. There's going to be times where it's not fun. Um, and the quicker you understand that and the quicker you embrace it and you can, kind of work around it, it doesn't become a toxic thing to say. It doesn't become a negative thing to say. It's kind of that reminder, that motivational reminder, at least for me, it was always that motivational reminder that, we signed up for some of this. We're going to be wasting our time complaining about it when we could just go get it done and be over with it. And then we can go complain about it later on, but we'll at least be done with it.
Yeah, it's a reminder of it. My take on that was just uh pretty much it. Carla says, yeah, they do she said those words do suck. Toxic positivity is inconsistent with real emotional literacy, right? Which must be based on trust and vulnerability. Absolutely, Carla, I get you on that. I think whoever invented this, and I'm not sure where the origin of it was, but they were onto something as far as the military culture is concerned, because you have to think about that, and I put that in there. This is really where what it boils down to. Remember what you're there for. And I think a lot of times that was the segue to them getting you to understand the embracing the suck, because you just flip that around and that completes the sentence. I'm embracing the suck because I'm remembering what I'm here for. And a lot of that, it didn't become that kind of clarity. And it's probably still not to some people in the essence of dealing with embracing the suck. The clarity hasn't been there, though. Maybe it been forced upon. The culture is forced it to, because there's nothing you could do about certain things that's going on. And you didn't sign up for the toxic environments or the leadership. You didn't sign up for, because I saw a lot of different things in the military that uh, did not gravitate with my core values. Did not give me any nice thoughts concerning those people that was doing those things and putting themselves or putting others, I always used to say, in harm's way. And I think about it when I joined the military, I was kind of like on this Captain America tip. Like, yeah, we supposed to be for all the good. We supposed to, we all on the same team. Let's get it good. And I saw so much disparity and so much different things. And then a recruiter told me he came to the base and bringing some more people to the base. He told me such is life. And I kind of thought it was cruel when he said that, because I kind of talked to him and I was like, yo, man, y'all guys, because I was upset at that point. What I mean? Recruiter told me go in, get this, sign up in this field, get this mad bonus after you finish basic and AIT. They drop that money into your account. I was like hype, man. Then he said, if you go in armor, that's another extra few $1,000s. I was like, oh, let me get on the tank and whatever. But it was just selling me a bill of goods about all the leadership and all the great things that was there, in which they were there. In some people, definitely can't blanket everyone that I came across, but I saw more of it not being there, and that made being separated even worse. That made me not be able to connect with family in these points of times even that harsher. And then I always felt a slap in the face for you to tell me to embrace the suck, because I always thought some of that suck wasn't even really necessary. Some of this suck you were putting us through, and situations that you were, causing platoons, leaders, squads to go through, really wasn't about what we were there for. it really was about individual agendas of people who had rank over you and knew that they could subject you to these kind of things. So when you have all of those things in play, to remember what you're there for, you kind of got to hold on to something so it makes sense to you, right? You got to think, okay, I guess I gotta put up with this, man. But you guys, in the course of those separations, in the course of that, give me one thing that you did that really satisfies. We getting ready to close out, man, and this holiday season, and we know Christmas is coming up on Saturday. What was if you had one thing that you remember was so well that kind of fortified you during those times away from family? What is that you would give to another service member at this point in time that's serving and they're deployed away from their family? Charlson, you want to kick us off?
I think, man, when I think about if you're deployed or you're away from family, what you really need to do is you need to be a better listener. You need to be a vulnerable communicator, and you got to manage your expectations, right? Because the truth is, and this is almost like a cliche buzzword kind of thing we hear all the time, right? But we say like nobody owes you anything.
This is true.
But you can apply that to your spouse, your significant other. You can apply that to your kids. Where if I say my wife doesn't owe me anything, that mindset allows me to appreciate her more. And so again, be a better listener. When I say vulnerable communicator, I mean you got to say when it sucks. You got to say when it hurts. You got to say when you're lonely. You can say the reason that I reacted that way yesterday was because I was feeling lonely, because something happened at work and I was in my feelings. Be vulnerable. Say those words. I acted that way because I was hurting. And then manage your expectations. So to me, that's it. Manage expectations, become a better listener, and a vulnerable communicator.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And Jeff, give us some of that part knowledge, man, of what these soldiers could do right now that's in these situations that we kind of talked about today.
I think Charles nailed it, man. Expectation management. Expect that phone call home, on Thanksgiving or on Christmas, that they could be doing anything. It could be sitting around watching a movie, worrying about you. It could be, cutting into the ham and they're having a full-blown Christmas dinner with everybody except you.
Yeah.
Have that expectation that any of that could happen, and how you react could make or break their, experience of it. And in a matter of just a few words, you can go from understanding to selfish and ruin it all.
Yeah.
So as tough as it is for you to be gone, remember, it's tough for them to be gone. And if they're doing Christmas dinner and all that stuff and all the fun things and you're not there, just remember, they're not choosing to do it without you. They're having to do it without you. So don't blame them. Don't point the finger back at them and don't feel bad about it. The one thing you can do to make their experience better is to say, oh, that sounds so awesome. I wish I was there. I want pictures. I want this. I want that. Like, oh, man, I hope you guys are having a blast. Yes, inside it sucks being gone, but don't ruin it for everybody. Have some expectation management and really try to – the best way you can get through is to mentally try to be tough and get through it with a very big understanding that the situation has changed.
Yeah, the situation has changed, and you brought up some good points there, because a lot of times, selfishly, whether it be beknownst to us or not, we look at our situations just with the thought of self-preservation, which is what we all do initially, right? We all think about what's good for ourselves first. It's just inherently our nature, and we look at it and say, okay, first thing I want to do is just kind of like kick it out, and it's just one of those things. Thank you, Patricia, for stopping by. Yes. So not all of them are, those, when you think about those kind of things, you can't set the table, like you're saying, in the essence of it. And when you look at it, just think about, or what I tried to do is just think about what would I have been doing there. Not necessarily from the fact that I'm lonesome and I can't be there with them, but I'm trying to put a time frame in to where they doing so I can get there mentally, right? So they say, oh yeah, normally about this time, dad may have the game on, or they may be, or mom may be yelling, all right, y'all set the table. Those kind of joyous memories that you experienced while you were there gives you an opportunity to go there. So when you're on that phone call, you're not with an upsetness of like, oh man, they cutting the ham and I can't have a piece. I'm way out here. Because you got to realize that they're feeling this as well as you. And you're not in this alone. Most of the times that these soldiers that have families, they're feeling that too. And whether if you don't have, I call them extended families, if you don't have spouses or children, you have parents, that are dealing with you as one of the siblings is not there. Your spot at the table isn't there for the dinner or what have you. So you can make or break even their opportunity to try to be festive and those things. And you kind of take those things in consideration as well, for those members and work together, man. We've covered a lot of good things today that kind of can help and inspire, and some of the actual things that you guys have done to kind of put, I can say over the hump, or however term you want to use, but you can use these in fortifying the relationships and the connections and staying connected, because I know automatically we already can't change the point that you're not there. So what do we must do from there? Charlson put it good. We must stay self-aware and get to, yes, Patricia, yes, Patricia say the women do. We are not discounting you, Patricia. We appreciate your service. Y'all can't see her name, but I see her on my other screen. Patricia Harris, we appreciate you and your service as well. Definitely want to get ladies involved in this conversation as well. I put out a few feelers to a lot of people in my veteran community. We want to get you guys takes on a lot of the military culture that we're going to be discussing, over the course of these Wednesdays to come. And if you can come in, drop it in, tell us where you're tuning in from. Tell us what you want to talk about. We're here to talk about it. We're here to share. We're here to maybe dissect some things that are going on. We're here addressing military culture because we want to address a lot of the things that maybe isn't talked about, or even just giving some avenues where people can go and get information and know that. And you'll hook up with these guys with Charlson. That's Charleson's LinkedIn. Make sure you hook up with him, 20-year vet. He's doing great things, emotional intelligence, all of those things. Look him up, check him out, and get my man Jeff as well. Jeff doing a lot of things, leadership, military, book writers, authors. Both of these guys has written books and doing these kind of things and giving back not only to those that in their circle, but just fully, worldwide. Their services is not just to where their location are. Their services are available to you no matter where you are. Well, no matter where you're serving, no matter where you're deployed, no matter whatever you're going through. And they've been there. They walk the walk and talk the talk. So they've been there. And of course, I always want to put up resources. We got the DAV for those vets that are disabled. For those also we have to get the Army. This is some that they deal with a lot during the course of the holiday time, the family readiness group. I think for the Army, for those Army military vets, I think Charlson had said something about them earlier. Just want to make sure I drop their website in there. And Gov also go on there as well. It's many resources that we want to make sure that you guys have. And the most important one that I can't leave, because I was a soldier at one point in time, was contemplating suicide. So this is definitely the hotline, the crisis line. If it has become too heavy for you, obviously we want you to dial 911, but we also want you to know that there are people that's readily available to talk to you, to try to see what's going on with you, and to get you help and services that you need. So we definitely want to. And this times of season, they can be, like my sergeant told me, a flip of the coin. He say good times and stressful times. And that's just what it could be. You could be feeling good one minute, and then a holiday hit like Saturday, and it just all comes rushing back and down on you. So we want to make sure that we're staying that way in the community. Gentlemen, I appreciate you guys for another lovely episode, man. Look forward to seeing you guys after the holiday break, after Christmas break, and try to come back next week. And any parting words, guys? Any parting words, Jeff? Any parting words?
Merry Christmas, guys, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for the conversation, and I hope you have a great weekend.
All right, you, Charlson.
Just want to say same thing. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the holidays, and always remember that you deserve to be happy.
Oh man, and I can't follow that up with nothing but like, Merry Christmas. You guys stay safe. Also want to mention maybe if you're traveling, I always want to say this. I say this after my shows. Make sure you're protected. If you aren't vaccinated, make sure you're wearing your mask. Whatever side of the aisle you depend on or you fall on, whether you want to get vaxxed or you don't want to get vaxxed. I'm not here to judge anybody on that, but I am to say just responsibly if you're going to be around people, just respect whatever they feel. You know what I'm saying? If they don't feel like they want to be around people that's not vaccinated, don't take it the wrong way. People are dealing with this virus and this corona in whole different kind of manners. So I think that if we focus on how we can get across with each other pleasantly, if we can drop all of that. If you vax, I'm vax. I'm not going to see those kind of things because at this time of year, we definitely want to keep the camaraderie. We definitely want to keep the love, and we definitely want to be able to see those individuals who we haven't been able to see, and we want to protect those ones that can't protect themselves, the elderly, the kids, those that their immune system aren't the greatest. You know what I'm saying? Put a mask on, be around grandma. You know what I mean? Put a mask on, being around grandpa. They might feel a little better, and you see how much better the situation to turn out. We appreciate you guys. Have a merry Christmas. Stay safe. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you guys for another great show.